Quite honestly, this is the longest time I've had uninterrupted in the last 8 years since my daughter was born, so it might be longer than 4 minutes, Joe. Let me know if I start going too fast. Us Irish, when we get excited, we speed up. So just someone wave and tell me to slow down. So I was born in Ireland in 1973. I know, it's amazing. I look incredible. I'm only 45. I'll tell you how later, all right? In Ireland in 1973, a woman was allowed to do 3 jobs. She could be a secretary, she could be a teacher or a nurse. That's pretty limiting, isn't it? But it gets worse. In 1973 in Ireland, once you got married, you had to resign because you were taking a man's job that could be used to support a family or a spinster's job, and that was the word that was used. So on International Women's Day, when we look back, we've actually come a really, really long way. And so, you know, as we think about the journey forward, we do need to celebrate the big steps we've made along the way. So yes, I moved around a lot before I started moving by myself. My dad worked in a bank and we moved around all of my childhood. And probably the funnest one of those was living in Chicago. So I was there from 9 till 13. And so then as a 13-year-old, you know, full of crazy American thoughts, I arrived back to the nuns in Dublin. I knew it wasn't going to go well from the start. Sister Frances said I was going to burn in hell, so I thought, this is not going to work for one of us, you know. But my parents intervened, and was I wrong about those women? Wow, they were amazing. They were the most feminist group of women I have ever across in my life, and I honestly would say I wouldn't be where I am today without them. They pushed us. They celebrated everyone's success, and all those successes were different, just like all the women you'll hear from tonight are different, to the point where once I had to stand up in front of a group of people about this size and explain why I was choosing not to do Honours Irish for the Leaving Cert, which is your NCEA. So public humiliation was quite often part of the Dominican way. When I left school, it was 1992. And 1992 in Ireland, Catholic Ireland, was still a different place from the progressive Ireland it is now. The conversations were starting about divorce. So as you can imagine, us senior girls and the nuns, God, we debated that to death. It finally came in 1995. And so as I was leaving university, and when I look at role models and the Irish country, I see a generation that have lost out ahead of me, really. I see a group of women who were taken care of, who didn't know how to pay a bill, who certainly weren't allowed to work, and suddenly left by themselves to figure it all out. So it's probably only looking back that I've realized actually what a driver that was for me. I swore I would never be reliant on anyone else for my financial freedom, and so I think actually that drive has come from there. So then I went to, when I was in university, I was in a study group. There was 3 of my male friends and I. They were pretty smart. I was probably as smart as they were, but when we would sit and talk, they would give 3 views and not listen to mine. And, you know, and that's a regular thing. A lot of us still see that in the corporate world today. So there's 2 choices on how you deal with that, really. And I chose oh, well, I'm the winner, because I've got 4 opinions and they've only got 3. So that worked out quite well, actually. But what reminded me of that today, I read something in the press from Dame Gillian Preston. She said, women have achieved a hell of a lot. They have done it sometimes by stealth, sometimes by storming the battlements, sometimes by knowing when to retreat and hold fast and live to fight another day. Well, I'm the stealth woman. That's how I go. So in the world of work, when I got there weren't very many women around. And those that were single, childless, married to the job. And, you know, looking as a young woman coming through, I thought, that's not the life I want for myself. But I've now realized that they were the wise ones. Think of the peace and quiet. Finding things exactly where you left them. So I had to turn to men. Those in front of me that I could learn from, you know, with wisdom and experience, were all men. And so through my life, I've had and still have a lot of male mentors who have been incredible. They have gone out of their way to be my cheer squad, to let me learn from their mistakes so I don't have to make all of those as well as the ones I was going to make anyway. And they've just been incredible. So I think, there's a lot of discussion and debate on at the moment about the Me Too campaign, and I'm not going into sexual harassment here, but, about pale, male, and stale, and actually what is the relevance of men in the world today when everything is so pro-women. And I think we've got to be quite careful on our balance on that, because in the male-dominated world that I'm in, actually, they have been my biggest supporters and cheerers, and I wouldn't be where I am without them. And I still rely on them today, quite honestly. That said, I still think that we are doing well. When you look at my generation, we actually have a lot of women around now. Is it ideal? Is it good enough? Can we stop? Probably not, in my view. I'm feeling like when I'm at a board table or in a meeting, I might be... What? Was that a mistake? That wasn't 4 minutes. That was a mistake, wasn't it? Yeah. It was a mistake. So, when I sit around a board table, there's probably assumptions placed on the role I bring to the room as a female. A lot of the time we hear that we're better with people and we're much higher EQ and so we get the soft problems around the table. And anyone who knows me knows that that is not me. I am a hard ass. I'm really good at finance. And if your company's about to go under, I'm the person you call. But if you've got a really thorny HR issue, I'm probably not it. And we won't get to a place where actually women are seen as what they are until we have a quorum around the table. And you can be seen as who you are as an individual and the skill that you bring rather than your gender. So I think for all of us, it'll be a rally cry to keep going until we've got that going. For now, when I look in the horizon, I see in my generation 2 kinds of women in an organization. There's the queen bee. We've all met her. Haven't we? Yes. My first manager was called Scary Mary. Does that sum it up? Yeah. The queen bee has had to do it really tough, really, really tough, and so has now decided to kick the ladder from those behind and make them do it just as difficult. And then there's the other kind of female emerging in the corporate world who's actually reaching out and trying to help other females come through. I'm just going to leave you the question of which do you want to be?